Welcome everyone. This is the Inception publishing panel. I've sent the volunteers to see if we can't find some more stools because we're kind of like below the wave here. So maybe midway through we might jump onto some stools if we're lucky. Thank you all for coming. This is the self-publishing panel. So are there any publishers in the room that are willing to? Okay. So the gloves can come. Are we recording? All right. Well, so not that we particularly care if we upset some publishers, but they're probably hiding at the back and just didn't want to put their hands up. All right. So we have three amazing panelists here with us. We'll get introductions from them in just a moment. I've got some questions for them, kind of dive into some of these important topics and challenges and opportunities related to self-publishing. And then we'll try to leave plenty of time for questions from all of you. So if you have some burning questions, we'll hopefully have a lot of time to dig into all of that. And with that out of the way, we'll get started. And why don't we just go down the line with quick introductions. So Philo, go ahead.
Does it work? Yes. Nice. Hi, everybody. My name is Philomena Schwab. I'm the co-founder of Sprayphone Studio, a 15-people indie studio based in Zurich. And we've been self-publishing the past 9 years since we have existed.
Amazing. All right, Kirsten.
Hi, I'm Kirsten. I work at a company called Landfall. I manage all the self-publishing elements and a bit of our external investment as well. We're an indie studio based in Sweden. We most recently released a game called Peak, our biggest game ever, and we've been self-publishing for as well 9 years, but we've existed for 10 years.
So did Peak actually do better than Tabs?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, wow. And like Tabs was such a huge success in and of itself.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, you heard that here. All right, Rod.
A little step down. So I'm Rodrigue. I'm the marketing and publishing director for Thunder Lotus. We are based out of Montreal. We have also been around for 10 years.
And all self-published.
All self-published. We have 4 titles. Most recently, 33 Immortals. It's a 33-player co-op game that we released this year, but probably best known for Spiritfarer, which we released 5 years ago.
Yeah, and then Jotun, and what was the other one? Was
Sundered.
Sundered. A little more hardcore. Yeah, a little more hardcore.
Forgot to mention ours. Made,
go ahead. Go.
Most recently, The Wandering Village, like the city builder on the back of a dinosaur, and Dungeon Crawler, the roguelike deck builder where you play as a claw machine. Yeah.
And is it Wandering Village got up to 900,000 wish lists?
960 now.
960,000 wish lists. Wow. Okay. So not that we're here to brag or anything, but just to give you a sense that there's no publisher involved there, and yet significant success. And so I think this is one of the things that I've been quite vocal of recently is the claim that self-publishing is always the long-term strategic best choice. So it's not that like, oh, I didn't get a publisher, so I guess I have to do it myself or what. Like actually, you really should be doing everything you can to self-publish as the best and first choice. In part, it's to be greedy about the revenue share and kind of keep the revenue, not have to share it. But that's, in fact, not even that important. The most important part is keeping the fans, is having a direct relationship with your audience. And really what you need to be greedy about is being greedy about your community. And that also is extremely valuable as you build sustainability in your studio. And so, I suppose my first question is, when you were starting off the studios, and all 3 of your studios were always self-publishing, you never went with publishers. I'm curious to hear in those early days what the logic was there, and was it more of a deliberate strategic choice, or is it I pitched, no one wanted me, and I guess I have to do it myself? And so maybe Philo, we can hear your story.
So actually, like when I was still a student, we were working on a project in our summer vacation, and for that one we actually got a publisher. And they helped us like with the marketing, and the game absolutely horribly flopped. And I felt like, if I would have been responsible, would I have done it differently? I don't know. What could I have done? I just felt like I couldn't own the failure. And next time I did it, I wanted to be fully responsible myself if it failed again.
So you had that, they call it the student lesson, but then when you went pro. You're like, I'm gonna win or fail on my own. Okay, well, very good. All right, Kristen, what's for Landfall?
Yeah, so we actually did have a publisher for our first successful title, which was Cluster Truck.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And after that experience, we thought that there was a lot of value in it, but we also thought there might be value in trying to do it on our own. And because of tabs and stick fight that followed, we realized, oh, we actually quite like doing it that way. And then we just continued after that.
All right, now you did only self-publish all your...
Yes.
So what was that?
And that was a strategic decision on our part. Our founders have that latent, I guess, suspicion about publishers in general that we all sort of swim in indie. So from the get-go, it was we should self-publish. But I would add the little addition to that because you mentioned money, and self-publishing does not mean you go and find money and have to give people a cut of that money once it comes in. Like, I just wanted to mention that because we weren't sitting on a pile of money to make this our first game. Like, we had to make that money happen. Say in Canada, we have governmental grants that we were able to get, but we also crowdfunded. So, that comes with its own types of strings.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it's an interesting point that, self-publishing doesn't mean you don't get other money, like whether it's a grant, whether it's a project fund, right? So Landfall has a project fund, or like the Among Us team has Outer Sloth, where they will do project funding, or Kowloon Knights, or a platform deal, or there are other sources of funding. Some of those are, call it free money, like some of the government grants. Others are also on a revenue share basis, so you are giving up some revenue to have access to that capital. But importantly, a project fund is not getting in between you and your fans. But
And you should totally go to Kirsten's roundtable after, because that's her topic.
So each of them are leading a roundtable this afternoon, digging into specific topics, and we'll get into that. But Kirsten is doing one on project funding. So I think in many ways we have to decouple the funding function from the marketing and publishing function, where most publishers do those two things together. But in fact, what we're starting to see is kind of an unbundling of those services. So, I mean, Kirsten, maybe you can briefly talk about sort of project funding and how that works.
Like in general, or how we...
I mean, let's say how Landfall works, and how there are other project funds only that don't do the publishing or marketing.
Yeah, exactly. So, at Landfall, we realized that when we were releasing Cluster Truck, we actually did need money to make the game a reality, right? We need to pay salaries and things like that. And a publisher, they can come in, they can do marketing, they can give us money to make the games. And then we realized after we had some financial success, we no longer need money, so maybe we can figure out how to do the publishing stuff ourselves, the marketing ourselves. A big thing here was that when we became financially successful, we said, okay, how do we give people the same opportunity? How do we say, hey, have money, but also maybe we can teach you how to self-publish? But also we find that the biggest blocker here is that people actually just need funding. Like, they just need to be able to have money to make their games. So at Landfall, we started just doing really small scale investments, like a few $100,000 towards games that we thought had promise. And it was fairly hands off. And then we see now we do a lot more of this, maybe at a larger scale, depending on the project. I think that it's been really interesting because a lot of the time, and especially now, there's this idea that games can sell themselves. So we felt like some of the games, they didn't even need a lot of external marketing because Steam and the algorithms were doing a lot of pushing for them. And then we've seen a lot more, like I am on the board of Wings, and they also do project-based investment where they basically just give a bunch of funding up front, and they also do the advisory piece, because we think that self-publishing is not easy. It's manageable, but if you have someone who can help you along the way, it makes things even easier. Often some of the biggest flaws in the self-publishing model is that you don't have access to people, you don't have access to platforms. So if you have someone who helps you with that bit and just connects you and helps you sustain your success, we find that's how we can best support developers.
Did you want to add something? Yeah.
Kinda have a confession. So 2 years ago, we started our own publishing branch. I have become the enemy. And I also saw that, as you said, that owning your own community. So having been on the developer side for a long time, what I was looking for actually back when we had like our first project was I wanted a partner that would teach me everything they were doing and like very transparently show me. So now what we are doing with our publishing branch is we actually mostly try to co-publish, where we are like setting up a Discord for the game that the developer owns and can continue to own, and not just sending them all to our own socials and our own Discord, and like just transparently showing the dev the things that we're doing and letting them be engaged as much as they wanted. So after working with us, hopefully they could go on, do their own thing if they wanted to.
And, I mean, so why did you set that up and call it a publisher as opposed to, let's say, like in Landfall's case, where they say, "Oh, we're not a publisher, we're doing funding and some coaching"? Like, why did you structure it in that way?
Because we're actually doing quite a lot of work for them, like influencer outreach or PR or handling their social channels. So I would then call it a publisher.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So talking about audience, I mean, maybe Rod, you can comment on this. How do you hold on to those fans, accumulate them, keep an active relationship, and kind of ensure that they don't disappear from game to game, right? One of the biggest sort of problems or challenges for game developers is they make their first game and it's a racing game because one of the co-founders loves cars. And they go and they find a bunch of racing fans and maybe they have some modest success. And then the other founder likes horses. So, okay, well, you got to make the racing game on the first one. Now we're going to make the horse game. And essentially, it's like you're starting from scratch, because the fans you got for the racing game are probably not horse fans. So you're essentially just restarting the entire process. Whereas if the next game was, also car related, you kind of build on that fan base and you're able to kind of roll the players from one game to the next. That's sort of the ideal scenario, but maybe you can talk a bit about that process.
Yeah, so we're not the ideal scenario, just to be clear. Like Thunder Lotus famously, and we give a lot of rope to our dev team to follow whatever they want to make, right? But I spoke of the games we've released, and none of them really appeal to the same player. This is not great.
Okay, he's not serving my
yeah, but okay, but
don't do it this way.
Okay, well, there is a bit of that, but at the same time, there is, say, a solid core of our fan base that we've always built on from the very beginning. Like I mentioned that our first game was crowdfunded, and we used those crowdfunders, and we crowdfunded our second game, and we've always sort of been building on that audience the whole way through, and there is like a core of the audience that remains. And I guess through our wisdom and guidance of marketing and publishing, we're trying to sort of install this thing like we should really be building on the audience that we have, because we can tell like there's a missed opportunity each time, not just in the community with the gigantic mailing list that we have, which is where we communicate to all of them.
How many people are there on the mailing list?
Somewhere like 250,000 or something like that. Like it's really like we have a direct line to these people's inboxes, and so the missed opportunity is there so our job as marketers is to say like, well, there's something about these games that tie them together. It's all us, and yeah, a lot of people will respond to that, but most of the time it is, to Jason's point, having to rebuild interest and excitement from people who don't even know you yet, and that's the problem. But the last thing I'll say, just to finish, is that the additional problem, and I think my friends here don't have this problem, is like we have extremely long dev time. So even if we were making the same game, having to string them along for the 5 years of dev time that we've been putting into these games is a challenge as well. So there's that's something that I think everybody would have to consider, depending on their own reality.
So I remember having an argument with Will, the CEO of Thunder Lotus, where they, Spiritfarer was a huge success. I mean, really a monster success. And I said, so what's the next game? Is it going to be like a successor, a sequel, something else cozy, and like, no, it's 33 Immortals, where you're 33 warriors with swords, and it's like, I'm not sure that's what the fans were expecting, but so yeah, I think if you were trying to build, for maximum sustainability or commercial viability, I mean, you don't have to do Spiritfarer 2, but you'd want to do something sort of in that vein. But I guess you guys are crazy.
And our next one is sort of kind of, it looks a little like Spiritfarer from afar. So at least you can sort of like, hey, is that from? And then you hook them, and then you have to explain what the game is. But
So
Phil, how about you in terms of like holding on to those fans and kind of rolling, or you similar?
Even worse.
Oh no.
So we made a city builder, and now we made on a biology topic on a dinosaur. And now we made a roguelike deck builder with a claw machine. And the next game is going to be like a live sim visual novel. We've never made a game in the same genre twice. It's horrible. I wrote my master thesis about community building for indie devs, and I'm ignoring all my own advice, because you're absolutely right. It's much easier if you could keep them. But we also have a big focus on like making sure they're joining the Discords and then bringing them over to the newsletter so we can reach them again.
Well, it's like you're both doing it on hard mode. It's like you're doing a lot of the right things, but you're also not like optimizing the sort of affinity group.
But that is actually the reason why we started the publishing branch, because now I have Wandering Village fans and they really like city builders and like nature. So, okay, I'm going to start a publisher and help like 5 other city builders with their marketing. And I can use the Wandering Village audience for them.
So Kirsten, I mean, for Landfall, I mean, I guess there's maybe more of a through line through your game. Like, how would you look at that sort of the audience challenge?
Yeah, I think, people often don't realize we've made the games that we've made because some of them are quite different. But the through line is often physics. Like, we do a lot of silly physics games. I think that, like, Content Warning was very different from Tabs, but Peak is more like Content Warning than, like, the other games. So we're kind of evolving, but we do definitely keep our community engaged. We have the same social media that we've had for almost a decade, the same Discord with expansions now, but we very much do try to hold on to the same community and give them the similar Landfall energy and vibe, and they definitely see it, the ones who follow us from the beginning.
Right. All right. So, I mean, we've been hearing a lot about, audience, community building, getting people on Discord, this kind of stuff, which is, I think for most indies, is things we hear about all the time. I mean, Rod, when you were building up, those skills and roles, where were the biggest gaps in terms of, coming from a more traditional dev background? It's like, oh, we need to skill up here, hire for this, or like, how did you put that team or skill set together? Like, where were the biggest gaps?
Okay, well, I guess I'll start with me, right? This is my first games job, right?
Oh.
And so I came in, our previous marketing guy had left, and I came in, and the gap was everything. Like I had to teach myself, and so I did everything from the marketing strategy all the way to the tweets, right? And I did that for 3 years before we finally brought in a community manager to do the tweets better. And but so our main thing, and I guess everything that our marketing strategy has revolved around since the beginning was like, okay, we need a place, and we need like a single funnel to bring people, and that was the newsletter. And so it was a gap. It wasn't something that we did very well, but we knew that we needed to ace that for Spirit Fair, and we've been building on it ever since. And there are other things that we were supremely bad at, like influencers and various other things. And so our team has slowly been growing with, as much complementary skill sets as we've had over the time. So now our marketing team is 7, and we're running 2. Like, we've announced 2 games and are marketing 2 games at the same time. So yeah, that's not sure that answers your question.
How many people are you in total? Would maybe be interesting to.
We're over 50 at this point. Like, so
50.
Yeah. So yeah, we only nominally basically qualify as indie at this point. But yeah, so it's 2 dev teams, and spoiler alert, third coming. But the will is to keep all the productions capped at that certain size. So it's never going to be like we're going to put 50 people on one game.
And you started from humble beginnings, so I mean.
Yeah, I mean, when I came on, we were like this crazy crew of 6 that also had marketing, which did not exist 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it's the same like Norsefell, one of the studios that I advised as part of our incubator, were 7 people, and they were struggling to get traction, and that studio was going to die, and they hired 2 marketing people, like 2 community managers. So they went from 7 to 9, and like that, like essentially transformed the whole studio and allowed the game to succeed and stuff. But Philo, maybe the same thing in terms of like where really you see the skills gaps, right? Like if everyone in here is starting to think, oh, I have to build these muscles and build these skills. Like where are you seeing, let's say with the teams you work with, like really where are the blind spots or the skill gaps?
So we are 15 people, and me and my co-founder, we have very complementary skill sets. That's was kind of the starting point. And that's also the reason why we make completely different games, by the way. So I had a game fresh out of university, turn-based strategy game about biology, and he had an action roguelike where you make drones. And we're like, okay, we're going to work together, and I'm going to help each other make each other's games. So it was clear from the start the first two games had nothing to do with each other in terms of community. So that was kind of our starting point. And in one way, that's bad, but in another way, it showed us that, oh, we can actually make different projects, and gave us some courage to continue down this road. And it's nice because it gives creative freedom, not so smart from the money side. And then, yeah, from there, from the starting point, so he's mainly like an engineer, and I was mainly like a game designer, marketing with a bit of art person. And so I've just been constantly replacing myself throughout until the marketing is what mostly remains. But now I'm also replacing myself there. There's always something new you can find. But yeah, definitely if you have a team of 5, it's cool to have a marketing person in there. Even if you're a team of 2, it's cool to have a marketing person.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you like, its core should be fundamental to the founding team. And if it's not a marketing, at least someone who kind of embraces
that mix is fine.
Or is willing to learn and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, when we were running execution labs, we did not take teams unless they had a quote unquote businessy person or someone on the team willing to take on that role, even if maybe they were a programmer or an artist or whatever. Just you just can't survive unless you have that. Kirsten, I'm curious. One of the questions I often get is, certain genres, do they lend themselves better to self-publishing and kind of that community engagement and play testing and so on, versus maybe other genres? It's like, forget about it, just get a publisher. Do you have a sense that really matters, or is that, because a lot of your games are very systemic, emergent, etc.
So I think this is a tough one because I do often get asked about this, and I think my answer changes a little bit every time. I think that at the moment I don't have enough data that goes any which way. But in terms of us and the things that we find work for us, is that definitely making multiplayer games has made it easier for us to self-publish. We have people constantly engaging with the games, people engaging with each other, and that ecosystem has been really, really good for getting our games out there and helping them market themselves. I think that if a game is multiplayer, it's easier for the word of mouth to spread because people want to play with their friends, for example. We are not super experienced with other genres. Like we always say, it would be really hard for us to work on a narrative game or fund a narrative game because we don't make games like that. So I don't have like any insight on how that works. But in terms of like multiplayer physics games, like we've been doing those for a while and we find that they work really well for us.
Yeah. Any thoughts? I mean, obviously you've done different genres. I mean, do you have any sense there?
I guess it's kind of a tough one, and I also don't have any data on this, but my short answer would be like, the developers are the best people to publish their game. They, in theory, love the game they're making, and they know where people who would love that game would be and how best to talk to them. So yeah, you could find publishers. Like I have, say, a tremendous respect for the publisher Hooded Horse, and they do like their thing. It's brilliant. But if I were to make that game and try and publish it ourselves, we just need to do the same thing that they're doing. And the really, really short answer is you just need to do the work. Like so if you don't have the time or the bandwidth to do the work, yeah, sure, the publisher can do it just as well. But I think there's not a genre that's off the table for self-publishing, in my mind.
I also think Landfall is smart for doing like shorter games. In general, I think, so after doing Wandering Village for 5 years and now Dungeon Crawler for a year with like only 2 people, and Dungeon Crawler soon taking over Wandering Village in terms of copies, not revenue, but like copies. I'm like, it's just so nice making something small, putting it out there, and then continuing to work on it if it does well. So I think that's what we're gonna do going forward.
But again, that lends itself to things that are more systemic or multiplayer, systems driven. Like that's hard to do if it's like chapter 1 of a epic novel game or something. Narrative game doesn't work quite.
Still, I'm doing a narrative game.
But this actually brings up a very important point in that. Genre selection is in fact your most important marketing decision. that if you are starting a game and you decide to do a puzzle platformer, you're kind of screwed no matter what you, sorry if anyone's making a platformer. It's just such a hard genre. There's so few successes. It's super saturated. No one wants to fund those. And so you've like made that decision, and yet no amount of marketing, community build, do all the right thing. Like your chances are still pretty slim to none to have any success. So, you can do all the work, but if you don't make that first choice correctly, and I think, Phil, isn't that your topic?
Yeah, exactly. My topic at the roundtable is idea validation.
Yeah, so maybe give us a sneak peek, just in terms of some initial thoughts on like genre selection and how you go about that. Like,
I mean, there is many things you can do, but right now we have like a co-working space in Switzerland. We run a boot camp where we're trying to teach people how to pick games that have like commercial potential that can be done in a year. And mostly so by looking at what do you like to play yourselves, what can you make, and what should you be making in terms of like what other games came out recently and did well, what kind of genres are really not saturated right now, for example, idlers or incremental games, just to name some examples. Or it was the vampire survivor likes for a while, but we're like running out of that wave. And you can only really do that if you have a shortish dev cycle. I feel for you it's completely different. Like with a 5-year dev cycle, you don't really know what's going to be the thing in 5 years, right?
Yeah, we're not chasing anything, at least not anymore. I mean, we did that with Metroidvanias back in 2017, and we ended up coming out after Hollow Knight, and we ended up coming up after all these great Metroidvanias, and then it's all and us. So
that was Sundered. Yeah, Sundered was.
Yeah.
Was that maybe your least successful game? Was Sundered?
I'm gonna go with not maybe.
Okay.
But yeah.
I mean, all of it was success, but
yeah, don't get me wrong. It was very quickly profitable, but was it something we could build on? Not necessarily.
But this sort of segues then into the concept of playtesting, which I think is an absolutely critical tool for game developers. That sure, you can do your competitive analysis and genre selection, and look at what's succeeding in the market. Which genres are more viable than others, and so you can make that choice. At the end of the day, you still have to make a great game. Just because you did your research and you're not making the puzzle platformer that surely was going to bomb. Okay, you've avoided that error. Now you're in the right direction. You still have to execute. And I think one of the dangers that I often see is a developer will say, "Oh, well, I did my research, and the research said city builders are hot, so now I'm making a city builder. And leave me alone. I'm going to go hide in the cave, work on my city builder, and I'll sell millions." Maybe, but also that's still extremely challenging. And so one of the ways to kind of mitigate those errors is to engage in playtesting. Put the game at a very early stage in front of players, in front of fans. This can be, via a private private alpha, closed alpha. It doesn't have to be sort of out in the public necessarily, but doing that is an extremely important way to get feedback, to help the team sort of polish and refine, but also as a marketing tool to kind of make noise. Hey, come join the community, give us feedback, and playtest. And I think you guys have been particularly well. And wink, wink. That's the topic of Rodrigue's roundtable is playtesting as a marketing vector. So maybe give us a kind of a preview of that.
Yeah, what a coincidence. So I think we're still growing, honestly. Like it's as far as we've been doing playtesting through our community for forever, but I'm looking to expand it and really bring it like to the next level. What's brilliant about it is that it really is like this weird feedback loop where marketing really gets to be integrated with dev in general, right? Where it's like, okay, we're trying to help the dev team identify who the game is for, but there's also guesswork in that. So if you're marketing the thing, trying to find the people who are interested in your game, but then you also have the opportunity to confirm that these people are interested in your game by having them play test it, right? And because you already have this ongoing relationship with them as community, that gives you like an in that I would say external playtesting companies would not have. Like they would just seed you with people that they know would probably be interested in your game, whereas you're actively trying to confirm that you're on the right path, you're talking about your game in the right way and to your audience, and that the actual people that you've identified as being the core player are like, yeah, you're on the right track. So it's this feedback loop that we are uniquely positioned as self-publishers to be able to do.
Yeah, and I think there are playtesting firms that will do that as a service. That I mean is valuable, but I would see that purely as a production function. Like, oh, we have a build. Let's call up keywords, have them run a play test with a dozen players. They'll give us nice reports and a video feed of the player's face. Like it's a very valuable mechanism for production. Yeah. That is not a vector for marketing or community building.
Yeah, not necessarily. And to add to that, like traditionally, playtesting is going to be led by the dev team, right? But the dev team is trying to make their game and don't necessarily prioritize playtesting. And again, as basically being the business side of the company, you can help. You can help trying to say, okay, no, like you need to do this regularly. You need to be, reconfirming how, especially on a 5-year dev cycle, like you really have to keep things on track in that way. It helps both the marketing and the dev team, and it sort of like integrates that relationship in a very interesting way.
And it's awkward. It's uncomfortable for many developers. Like, oh, my baby is not ready to be seen and like, yeah. So if you're comfortable, it's too late, right? So you should be feeling awkward, uncomfortable, like, oh, I'm scared, and so on. But let's talk about timelines. We've heard a couple of times here, like, oh, don't take 5 years, as you'll sort of miss the mark. It's too long and whatever. So there does seem to be a new pressure on speed, right? Getting to market quickly, try to reduce development times. I definitely see a push towards getting to a playable build as fast as possible. Like, that should be a priority. Let's get a playable build because we want to start the playtesting in month 2. Not year 2. And then that also allows you to have the ability to create a gameplay trailer, which then means you can build a Steam page and start engaging on the marketing and all this kind of stuff. And I think maybe Kirsten with Peak, like this was extremely collapsed timeline. So maybe talk us through a little bit of what you were thinking there in terms of like speed and so on.
Yeah. So because we've released so many games, we took a lot of learnings from the previous games. Like Tabs was a 5-year project. Haste was a 3-year project, and our developers were feeling really, really burnt out at the end of all of those cycles. They felt like at the end of those projects, they just weren't motivated to work on them anymore. So Content Warning was the first time or biggest success that came from a really short dev cycle. So we took 6 weeks and we treated the first 2 weeks like a jam, where everybody got together, they worked on the game, and then afterwards they polished it a bit, and then we shipped it, and it went on to do super well. It almost eclipsed all of the previous games that we made that took a lot longer to make. Now, I always say this with a pinch of salt because what our team can do in a month is a lot more than what most can do in a month. We have multiplayer architecture and voice chat, proc chat that we've developed over 10 years, and we're basically reusing that for the type of games that we make. So it's not, I think that, for the most part, it would take people more time. But for us, the good thing is that if we work on a game for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, like Peak, and it doesn't go well, then we move on to the next thing. It's not a huge train smash. We haven't sunk a whole bunch of time, money, and energy into it. So we're less committed to work on it for longer because we find that, if it's been a year, we're like, let's just give it another 6 months and then make it even better because it's not there yet. Whereas in this 8-week project, the deadline is so clear. If it's not showing promise in 8 weeks, it probably won't show promise in 1 year based on our skill levels and our experience. So we just move on to the next thing. So far, it's worked out pretty well.
Nice. And so... do I understand that the dev time on Content Warning was 6 weeks?
Yeah. That's
bonkers. Yeah, 6 weeks plus the foundational layers of tech and tools that you kind of had in your back pocket.
Exactly.
But still, that's insanity. All right, we're going to open it to the floor in just a moment. And one of the things that I'll often tell developers are like, I'm coming to Gamescom, we're going to GDC, and I feel like I have to pitch publishers and investors and platforms, and I got to look for money and so on. And one of my main tips these days is stop pitching. Yeah. That in fact it's a game indie jujitsu or something where in many ways the easiest path to funding is to ignore all the people with money, and in fact do these things where it's like speed to evidence. Get a playable build as quickly as possible, start running play tests, put a gameplay teaser trailer, start getting the wish list, like within a matter of weeks, if not a month or two, if you don't have all that foundational layer. And the people with money will notice that is happening. They'll see that your demo is climbing on the Steam free and whatever trending chart. They'll see that some streamers are picking up this cool new game and playing it. Like, where did this come from? They'll see that you have a big Discord and everyone's active and so on. So in fact, if you do the work and focus on your audience and engage in playtesting, all this kind of stuff, and like not stress about going out and preparing a pitch deck and going to all the shows and spending all the money, like actually they'll start poking you. And I've seen that happen firsthand. This is not like I'm dreaming it. Like this is literally happening, as we speak. I don't know. Does that?
Yeah, you can really watch it. Like as soon as when you go up the Steam wishlist charts, the higher you get, the more weekly publisher mails you're getting. Dungeon Crawler was also like the first demo was done in 4 months, and we just put it out, and then you could already see from the demo that it's going to work. For me, like now also as a publisher, seeing that the game has a demo out and nothing is happening, then I'm always like, maybe it's just because the people didn't really show the game around, but that always like raises an orange flag for me.
But it's a risk. I mean, that's a risk you have to take.
Yeah, take the risk.
But wouldn't you like to know that after 1 month as opposed to 3 years?
No, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So it allows you to pivot and so on.
I would really,
So that's that's. And if you do that, it's not just publishers. As we said, we don't want publishers, but then the project funds will knock, the festivals will want you in their showcase, Xbox will poke you about potentially doing a game like Kickstarter becomes an option. Like all these doors start to open up if you actually focus on building audience and running playtests and validating your game loop and all these kinds of things.
Yeah, what I mostly meant was when you put out the demo and nothing is happening, chances are also that when the game launches, nothing is happening either. So you kind of want to know earlier.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, so with all that out of the way, let's turn it to the audience. And if folks have questions, you're welcome to ask a particular person a specific question, or you can kind of just sort of ask broadly. All right, your hand came up.
Thanks for the panel, first of all. So you talked about playtesting and validating early. How does that look for obviously a platformer is much easier to get the feel for and a playable build for, but something like a story-driven or narrative game, how do you playtest that early on?
Yeah, well, so this is where, I don't know if they have comments, but I'll take that. So, much more challenging for a linear narrative game, but also if you did your market research, you would not be building a linear narrative game.
That's great.
So that's a whole other discussion on genre viability. But in today's market, doing a short, linear, fixed ending is also extremely challenging, in part because you cannot really use it to engage an audience and do constant play testing, because if it's a 2-hour poetic experience, it's like done. I don't know if you have thoughts.
So, yeah, hard. I always recommend that whatever genre you're making, reach out to some of the people that have done it successfully, so they can tell you the challenges that they had and what they did, and maybe they can even enable you to do a playtesting with their audience or something, as a little collab.
Here, let me get out here so I can run around with the microphone. All right, go ahead.
I wanted to ask, in terms of online advertising, which platforms do you guys have had the most success with these days?
Oh, sorry, I wasn't listening. The platform for advertising?
Yeah, like in terms of online advertising, what's working these days?
Is something really working that well? So we do it occasionally for like launches and things. Facebook, still good.
Reddit? I mean,
Reddit can be good. Yeah, everything can work, but it's not like, or at least for us, it was never like, we really figured it out and now it's making us millions and millions. What about you guys?
The weird thing about advertising for us is, I swear I've been saying for several years, okay, maybe next time we spend a little more and then we'll know. Then we'll know it works. And honestly, inconclusive. Nothing is consistent. And it's built into what you were advertising and what you were trying to make happen. So it's hard to say like, okay, when you just announced the game, that's one thing, but what did you try to advertise when you wanted people to actually buy the game? So when you're marketing so few games, it's hard to get those muscles working and
The reps,
saying,
to get the reps in, yeah.
which again, and so when we do advertising, we pay someone else to do it because we're not smart enough.
But do you see results from them, or it's just kind of...
No.
All right, just... Oh, yeah, maybe pass that.
Yeah, I have a question. So if you're a multi-title studio and you end up making quite different games, if you would get a publisher, you would usually get like different publishers for the very different games. But if you want to self-publish your very different games, and then you kind of build up this your 6 people, and then you hire 2 or 3 people to enable you to do self-publishing, and maybe they are perfectly aligned to your cozy narrative game, and then the next game you make is in super hardcore roguelite or whatever. Those people don't necessarily are the perfect people to be community managers for that community. And also the first game, it might want to scale down a little because not every game is a kind of forever game that they want to have like a half-time community manager all the time. And suddenly you get into this position maybe where you have to shift or let those people go because you internalized all those people. Do you have a perspective on that? How you can handle that?
I'll jump in and say they're false positives because they've had success despite some of these challenges. But my general advice is to try to keep the genres and audiences, so if your first game's a cozy game, you have some modest success, you should do more cozy games. But I mean, they're they're good examples. But Kirsten,
Except for Kirsten, she did well.
I mean, I just want to say that part of what we do at Landfall, because all our games are kind of a little different. None of them are exactly the same. I think that what we try to do is keep the team small. We have like 7 people working on a title nowadays, and those 7 people often change. So it's not necessarily even the same 7. So we've restructured the company to make sure that we have like a handful of like core developers that will probably touch every project. But then we work with a lot of contractors who we need specific things from. Haste was like a 3D beautiful game. Every other game that we made was like silly and wonky. So the artists that we brought on for Haste, we didn't necessarily want for future projects. So we contracted them, we worked with them, and they're great. We might use them in future. We used them before. So we try to keep the team as fluid as possible as well.
but will you do that mix and match also, let's say, for a community manager? So you'll have a cozy community manager versus an action?
No. So the thing about us is that like Hannah, who has been at Landfall since the beginning, she has basically cultivated the community by herself over the years. So she has been very, very capable of adapting and doing things differently. I definitely know that the audience for some of our games has not been the same, but she has always catered to the one that shows the most promise. Like there's always games that fall behind, but that's kind of, we just had to take that loss in order to not make our team too big and too bulky.
Okay.
Can I
Well,
just
yeah,
add to
maybe
that?
pass it over there. Oh yeah, go, Rock.
Just real quick. In my mind, first, there's a couple of things. If you're doing self-publishing, generally you are there from day one of when you started to conceive of your game. So if you're not really that type of community manager or whatever that means, you have the time to become that, right? Like you have a time to really just live with the game before you even have to announce it. So that's sort of like a thing that I would mention there. The other thing is like, and this is like I don't know, maybe not obvious to everybody, but as marketers or community managers, you literally don't need to love the game to do the work well. That sounds a little crappy, but I don't love all our games equally. I just don't. Again, it's like I know like intuitively all our games sort of a different kind of audience, and I love the dev team, I love their work, etc. And I can put myself in the shoes of the people that will love that game and do the community management or do the marketing to them. Like that's just a thing. It's the advantage again of being embedded in the team that makes the game.
I feel that it is cool if the marketing person actually likes. Having been the marketing person for all of our games, our first game was the closest to my heart, and I could really feel myself connecting with the audience on a whole different level, being on all the biology subreddits, you know. And then when we made our drone game and I was supposed to talk about space, you could feel it. I feel your pain. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Go ahead. Next question.
So, Jason, you mentioned that you shouldn't be pitching in a way, and you should just make the demo, build the wish list, and they will come to you.
Yeah.
But you guys are doing some of this funding for people who want to self-publish, but you kind of have to pitch to you guys to get that money to make those demos and start building that wish list, right?
Well, I think, you know, for the most part, very few people who actually pitch us we end up signing. We have found more games off of Itch or TikTok and found games that way, where games actually weren't really looking for us, but we were looking for them. And like, that's a big part of this. It's like, if there's a demo that I can play online and connect with, that speaks way more than a pitch deck, and it always will.
Right. So it's build the demo before
Yeah.
Monday, essentially.
Well, so the gap in the marketplace today, as these like these are sort of tectonic plates that are shifting under our feet, you know, sort of post-COVID hangover phase and you know all that stuff. But the real gap is, where does the money come from to get to the demo, playtest, initial evidence? In some countries, that comes from a government grant, or if you're in a place that has an incubator, you're part of an incubator. But not everyone in the world has access to that. Not everyone's in the same country that has these tools. In some cases, it's your rich uncle that says, "Here's some money." Go like it can come from anywhere and all kinds of places. But generally, call it the professional money, right? The funds, the VCs, the publishers, they're not funding that initial part, because now there's just way too many things that they see, and why should they take your racing game that has no wish list, no no nothing, versus mine that has 100,000 wish list, you know, et cetera. So the real gap and the challenge for developers today is getting that initial demo, playtest, and sort of trailer or whatever evidence before they go out.
Thank you.
All right. Let's get to the back of the room. Or is the microphone somewhere? Oh well, no, here.
Hi. I have a question about acting on community feedback. So let's say, you know, you have your demo out, people start playing it, you get your feedback, you build your wish lists and all that stuff. So my question is, how often do you react to what the audience is saying and update your builds and put out and continue building? Because you also don't want to get whiplash from reacting to everything everybody's saying, and you want to stay true to your game vision, but you still need to build that community and the audience. So how do you manage strike that balance between those two things?
So always address, or in our case, we try to address, especially if there is something that a lot of people are bringing up. If it's something we want to change, great, right? Sometimes we don't want to change it. And then you have to really, in my experience, go into the discussion on why you want, so that people can really understand your reasoning behind it. Maybe they don't agree, but they're understanding. And we had this several times. And then whenever new people started bringing up the point, the community started explaining why the devs are actually not doing it. We had a good time so far, but sometimes it can get problematic, I think.
I mean, I'll pause it there, because it's a huge question that requires a whole presentation. No, but it's an extremely valuable one. I mean, I do believe if you go to GDC Vault, there's probably a few lectures and panels on that question exactly. So I mean, we're almost out of time, so that could be a whole massive topic.
Thank you very much. Let's say I also have this foundation, technically speaking, to build a game in 6 weeks. How would I appropriately scope out marketing and community building within these 6 weeks of development time? So when I've done my game, it's ready to put on Itch or Steam or wherever, I haven't spent too little or too much on marketing or community building.
So I think specifically, you know, when people come to me with this, I say that if you don't already have an idea in mind, you probably need more than 6 weeks. A big part of why we can make a game in 6 weeks is because we already kind of know that the game has potential to do a lot of its own marketing. So we don't necessarily do a lot of marketing spending. We don't necessarily do press outreach or like things like that. We basically are just anticipating that we drop the game and it has legs. And we can only do that because we have success already. If I'm investing in a game and they tell me that they want to take, 8 weeks on a project, I would say, whoa. Maybe let's take a few more months and let's think about it together. So I think like this is a thing that is a case by case basis. And genuinely, I don't think it's possible to have like a full scale marketing rollout and everything like that in 8 weeks. It only works for us because we shadow drop games. And like that is our strategy.
And so I'll add, this is sort of case in point why you want to be building and be greedy about your audience, because you can get to the point some years down the road where boom, you drop a game and all your fans are there and everyone piles in and you have like a success. You still have to execute, make a great game. Sure, that kind of phenomena is not going to happen on game one when you're completely unknown and nobody knows nothing. But if you grind and you get to the point where like, oh yeah, I'm dropping a game in 6 weeks and it's selling 4 million copies or whatever, like that's a good place to be building a sustainable studio. Okay, we're gonna do one last question at the back of the room. It better be a good one.
Awesome. So this is just a general question to all of you, but also your example before where you had the like original idea or original game that was the racing game. And then obviously that's where you build the fan base up. And then obviously it's not smart, obviously, to go to a horse racing game, which doesn't have a lot to do with that fan base, and you might lose a lot of your fan base. Do you find that there is a risk with like typecasting in terms of like your fan base, whether because no one wants to have the FIFA syndrome where you make the same game for decades at a time and you have the same audience, because then that sort of limits growth. Is there a problem or risk with that?
Yeah, I mean, my thought there is, delighting your fans on an ongoing basis is probably a good foundation for a great studio. That doesn't mean you're doing race game 1, race game sequel, like I want one of the studios, the Canadian studios, Fun Selector. They did Absolute Drift, which was a drift racing game, modest success. Then they did Art of Rally, which was a racing, but rally, not drifting. But all their drift fans like, oh, this is amazing, we love this, and then pile on that. Then they did a F1 simulator, Race Manager, much more niche game, another success. And then their fourth game, Over the Hill, is like a 4x4, like in a Jeep, a bit like Peak actually. But it's like your 4x4s, traversing the land and chatting and whatever. And opening weekend, 200,000 wish lists, and within I think 2-3 months they had 500,000, like 500,000 wish lists. So that's sort of the power of audience. Now, everything they've done has wheels, but drifting, F1, rally, 4x4. So it doesn't mean that I have to do rally 1, rally 2, rally 3, rally 4. Like this kind of syndrome. But I'm still delighting my racing vehicle fans and kind of capturing them and being greedy about them. I don't know if anyone has a sort of, again, in a way, they're a false positive for this particular example because they've kind of meandered across many different genres and maybe it's not the sort of optimal path, but go ahead, Philo.
But I do think only making the same genre and very similar games also has a risk, because sometimes a genre is starting to fall out. Yeah, it dies, and then you don't know how to do anything else. So I'm kind of happy that I know my team can make anything. Maybe we're not the best at making one thing specifically, but we're very versatile, and we like chasing like, oh, what's currently the new hip thing? Can we make a game in that genre? We like that creative challenge, but it's really different for every team.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you decide you want to make horror games and you're going to go for horror, like the genres and style of games and scope could be quite broad, and horror fans will play different kinds of horror-y games, that there's still enough sort of room to kind of wiggle, but you're just thinking, can the players or fans of my previous game, would they actually be interested in the next game? Doesn't mean it has to be like a one-for-one direct overlap, but this is, in the grand scheme of things, if you can optimize more for that, you're building more sustainability into your studio. But all right, folks, unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Big round of applause for our awesome panelists. Thank you for coming. And check your agendas, because what time what time does the roundtable start?
12:45.
12:45. Each of them will be doing a roundtable. Philo's doing a genre selection and viability analysis. Kirsten is doing project funding, and Rod is doing play testing as a marketing tool. So you can join those roundtables after lunch.